Hey, welcome to Real Talk with Mr. Richard, a video podcast sponsored by 360 Dance Festival. Good morning, listeners. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button where you listen to your podcast. We are on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. If you prefer, we also have the video of these podcasts on YouTube. Check out the channel at Mr. Richard Approved. Now, on with the show. All right, welcome, Natasha. Natasha shares a fantastic name for her studio, Studio 360, and 360 Dance Festival. It's almost like we were meant to be together.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were. Totally meant to be.
Why don't you give the listeners just a little bit of backstory for how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Natasha Leas, and I own Studio 360 School of Dance, and we are located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is like the eastern part of Iowa. We're about 3 hours from Chicago, for those wondering. And yeah, we're just starting our fourth year, and this summer actually kicks off the fourth season, and we just started with 68 students in the summer of 2017, and we're in a very fast growing area, and the location of our studio is helpful in that sense, and we just kind of taken off. There was I had coached at the local high school, and so already and taught in kindergarten and preschool at the school, and so I kind of already had some roots established in our community, and dance kind of just took me on another journey, and here we are today.
Great, that's fantastic. So when you were saying that the studio is the location of the studio is helpful, tell everyone like about how far you guys are from that intersection.
Oh yeah, so we are right off of the one main interstate that goes through our city, and you have to get off our exit to go to the airport. It's really conveniently located, just because no matter where you live in the city, like it would take about 15-20 minutes to get to our depending on traffic to get to our studio, just because we are right off the interstate. And then what's awesome is across the road from us is the school district, and our school district is unique in the sense that all the schools, elementary, middle school, junior high, high school, it's all on one campus. So we don't have neighborhood schools. It's like, think about a college and how you have all your buildings. Actually, our community is called College Community. And so, yeah, it's one big campus. And so the schools are right there. And then we are, like, I could throw a rock as close to them. So it just makes it convenient. We're on the south side of our city, and which is awesome because there's not very many other dance studios, if any, on the south side, actually. All of the other studios are on the north side, or kind of downtown area, where we're on the south side. And so that helps too, that we're kind of our lone wolf out here. And and just being right by that school district, that main artery, and then right by the interstate just helps us with location.
So yeah, that I was just getting ready to say location is key, and it sounds like you have a perfect location
Yes.
for people to get to and from the studio, and it's super convenient for a huge mass of kids to conveniently get to you quickly and safely. So that location is key. Location is key to success, especially in the dance studio world. And what exciting things are going on right now at the studio?
Okay, well, super exciting things. Well, we get to open, and so that's probably, if we had like a blowhorn, I'd be blowing that right now, like, woo, here we go. But we are opening July 6th, actually, is we usually do a summer session for 6 weeks in the summer. So this would be our typical summer session. So right now we are gearing up for our 6-week summer session. And then we have summer camps. We were supposed to do one camp in June. We moved that into July and August. So we just moved that one camp over just to give everyone time as our state reopens and everyone gets a little bit more comfortable, being out in public and being around other people. What's awesome about our state is we have summer softball and baseball, and they actually are playing. And so that helps even our industry because there you go, there's kids and families out starting to do activities. So, everyone's a little anxious to start as far as, the protocols and how's it going to work. But, everyone's very excited. All the parents I've talked to, they're counting down the days. And yeah, they're counting down the days and just to do something. And I think there's a lot of anxiety towards what is the start of the school year going to look like. And if their kids can get into something, get around their friends, get around other children, that it won't be such a shock to their own systems, their immune systems, and we got to kind of relearn social skills, even as adults. Like when we first had those few interactions with other adults, I'm like, whoa, it's not a computer screen between me and you. So, we all have to adjust to the whole social skills aspect of reopening and just being around people. So that's pretty exciting for our studio, is just getting back into the season. We didn't get to do our recital, unfortunately, but we did do kind of a virtual one where they submitted videos, and then we have a videographer putting that together on a DVD. We did a parade celebration where the kids, like, they stayed in their cars and they drove through our parking lot, and we handed each of the dancers a bag that had their certificates from the season, and then their recital medal that they completed their recital, which would be typical on what they would normally get for our, at the recital. And it was just a way to celebrate. I think everyone needed some closure. Yeah. On ending one season, and then, okay, let's move forward. And so we did that. It was a fantastic time, happy tears, and it was on the hottest day, but it was all worth it.
Fantastic. And I believe you guys were expanding. Is that still a go?
Yep. So we were supposed to be building we have like a 5 suites. So if you imagine like a strip mall area, and we have 5 suites. One suite is Subway, which, that's always helpful for us. And then there's a suite between us and Subway that's vacant. And then we have the other 3 suites. And yeah, we were initially going to start all that construction here in June and have that ready for the start of the fall season. And as everyone else had to do, we had to shift that back a few months. And so just to be open and vulnerable for anyone that's like, how does this work? So we financed through the SBA, the Small Business Association, gave us our loan to open our business. And we are going to refinance that loan. However, when COVID happened, the SBA requires that you have 3 months of operating. Which totally makes sense. They don't want to loan you money to just close the next month. So we had to push that back, and it created a little bit of a challenge because we're going to be doing that in October, which is right in the middle of the fall season. So in a way, just with everything, you shift, you figure it out, and we're going to open with our fall season. And we used to say register in August, we would start in September, and then that's a full school year. So that would go all the way till June. And now with COVID and just rethinking things, we're doing it by fall season and then a winter spring season.
Okay.
And so that will help us actually, because we'll have our one schedule set. We're going to open up that 4th studio. We now will have 4 different rooms. And then winter, spring, be able to utilize that new room. So yeah, definitely exciting that we're expanding. I mean, I didn't think it would happen now. I thought maybe one more year, and then when we looked at the numbers, and it's hard because if we look at just what's happening today, you're like, oh, okay, we're fine. We don't need to expand. But in a business, you have to look at to the long term. If we want to reach 400 students, we're going to need more space because you only can serve so many kids at a time with 3 studios.
Right.
So it's all about the projections and the long term, looking long term instead of right now we're partially closed and going through a pandemic, but come fall we're gonna need more space. So
That's great. So you guys opened your doors in 2017, is that correct? So I'm sorry.
yes, correct.
So 2017. So from 2017 to 2020, you went from 68 students to projecting for 400 students in 3 years.
Yes.
What would be your advice to a new studio owner or a person that's looking to open a studio um, that, well, two parts that could potentially have that same success that you had, and maybe something that you wish that you'd known before that you know now, or a studio that is looking to open that may not have that same success. What would be your advice as a businesswoman, wife, daughter, former coach, teacher? Like you've worn many, many, many hats that you can speak from. What would be
Yeah.
your
Okay. Advice. One would be, you know, don't go into owning a studio unless you like to wear many hats. Um, if you go into it saying, I love to teach dance and I love dance and I just want to teach dance and that's all, then go find a studio to work for. Because you really, really have to love, and I mean love, what you're going to do. You have to be able to challenge yourself, be able to take risks, and really wear the hat of a businesswoman. I mean, you have to get into that mindset. I love our students. I love our families. I love teaching dance. I do. I love all that. But a part of me also loves being an entrepreneur. I love doing the business end of things. I don't like the taxes and the payroll and all the minute to minute things, but you can find people to do that for you. So I guess my first thing is start with your why. That was something that someone gave me advice on, and it has to be start with your why. If your why is to create a space that is unlike anything before, is in your own way, own vision, own values, and it's really there to serve others, then you're going down the right path. If you're going into this business thinking, well, I have an ego and I'm going to train these kids and they're going to be the next people on World of Dance and look at me, I would maybe question your why. Because and we'll get into this later, but 99% of your clients are coming to have a great experience and they're going to go on to do something other than dance. And so you really have to come at it as who you're serving and your why. And then start, when you have that, start with what resources do you have. I was fortunate with, just being able to be in the community with teaching. Like, how do you know the community around you? How are you involved in the people that you would be serving? Who are those people? Can you serve? Maybe you're like, I don't know. I have, maybe 30 kids I can serve. Okay. Where can you maybe start without needing a building? Maybe there's a rec center. Maybe there's, a different, maybe there's a school you can rent out a gym to host dance classes. So really think about, if you think about the end goal, like, wow, they have 900 kids and they have this huge building and they have this. Yes, that's your goal, but you have to start. You got to get in the dirt. And so the dirt is that you have to start somewhere, and that isn't going to look like the end result. So starting out from, maybe with a few students, get your core, get your vision aligned, get what you're doing and get some people with you. And then slowly just build year after year. We are each year has never looked completely the same for us. And I think that what happens is sometimes we get into a process and we say, well, this is how it's always been done, or this is how I've always done it. I've always charged X amount for tuition. I've always had these kids take this class. I've always had, but you have to have this open mindset of you're just going to grow and it's going to work how it's going to work, and you're going to learn and you're going to just kind of snowball. It's a big snowball. So I guess, again, the why, to summarize, the why you're doing it, and really be solid on that. Really understand what it takes to operate a dance studio. It's not all glorious. It's not all fun. There's a lot of fun. I love what I do. I get out of bed each day, grateful for what I do. And but there are going to be challenging days. There are going to be tough things. There's going to be who knew a pandemic was going to just, come right in the middle of a season. And you have to be able to stay calm and weather any storm that comes. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that, the next time we have you on, we'll go into some specifics. What's the best moment, and what's the worst moment? Because there's something that comes along with teaching that you just don't learn in the classroom. You can't. You're in the college courses. You only learn it by being legitimately in the field, working with people, and there's no other way for you to learn it. And you just have to be ready for it. And I think that the dancers are definitely more equipped for that because their brains are used to how they learn, learning, bits and pieces and details every class. So the idea of adjusting is not as hard for them as it would be for, say, a soccer player that has to go from the grass to, we're only training in basketball on the basketball court and we're only working on this drill. Like it's a little bit more of a shift. So you guys have had fantastic success, and you are unique that your husband has joined the team. What's that like working with your husband?
Oh, it's a glorious thing. It's great. Again, those challenges, snowball effect. But no, that's been unique. Like I always asked him, I was like, when you met me, or like when we got married, did you think? And he's like, no. He's an electrician, so like he's not in the dance world. He is very handy when it comes to, needing to build and repair things. And, he had encouraged me for years before this even happened, opening a studio. He encouraged me like, why don't you do this? And I was just always like, it's not the right time, or, I don't know if I could do this. And so he was always kind of that like chirp in my ear to like encourage me to do it. And so then when we opened, and he was part of kind of how it's going to we're opening the finance side of that. And when I looked at all the things we have to do to, be a studio, there are some things that don't bring me joy. And one of those joys would be the, you have to choose, you got to pick and choose what's going to bring you joy. And unfortunately for him, he likes the numbers. He likes the spreadsheets and the crunching and the like taxes, and him and our CPA, I think, are like closer than most people probably would be to their CPA. He loves talking strategy and business things. So it's kind of become his part-time job. He does work full-time, and luckily for us, it's literally right down the road. So that's nice for him. And and he helps out. He does maintenance we call him Mr. Jim. Like he kind of is a jack of all trades. My best story about him was when our first year and a kiddo got sick in the middle class. And yeah, and so you're like, oh, these beautiful marley floors, and then yep, and that's just kids though. You're working with kids, and so I don't do well with the bodily fluids, and so I'm trying not to gag, and the students were trying not to gag, and I think there was another teacher in there, and so Jim came to the rescue and did all the right things. So in that sense, it does help because you know if when you are married and then you have a relationship, like your partner has to be supportive because this is not just you undertaking. It will affect your family, your partner, and if we don't have children yet, but that is something that down the road we will manage as well. So you definitely have to be invested, both husband wife, husband husband, wife wife. Like you have to definitely make sure that everyone is on board because that is critical. And communication, like whoa, we still are working on that. Just communicating, because you have all this stuff in your head and then you're like, didn't I tell you that? And then they're like, no, and you're like, I swear I told you that. And so we've had to get good at like writing everything down on calendars, and just constantly trying our best to communicate and then forgive each other when that that breaks down, because it does happen. And yeah, so it's great. We've had to work on boundaries. It's so funny. I have like a boundaries worksheet right here from my therapist. It's about boundaries, and it's about just making sure, because we can go home and we can still be talking about stuff from the studio, but we're making dinner, and then before you know it, like we're going to bed, and did we have any other conversation that wasn't with about the studio or dance or business? So we've gotten better at when we leave the studio, that's and we leave and we go and have our time at home. And sometimes that looks like turning the phone off, turning the email notifications off, and really just being present in those moments, because our relationship is important, just like the studio is important. So
fantastic advice. That is fantastic. Just great advice, and I think um, that that it's great that you have such support, but it's also great that this endeavor that you guys have ventured on is, in a sense, bringing you closer together in a way that you wouldn't or possibly couldn't be if you weren't in it together.
right, yeah, it's definitely like um, because that's the other thing. We were both pretty independent individuals, and we are in a sense, where then we come home and it's like you have your work, I have my work, and then you come home, and then you just have your family time, where this is not the same. It's like the studio is kind of like our baby. And we're can sometimes bring that home. But yeah, just communication and honesty, and forgiveness. Like nobody's perfect, and you're going to have those days where you definitely messed up, and or what, we talked way too much about the studio, or I took that phone call when it was 7 o'clock and shouldn't be taking that phone call. And then communicating those boundaries with your clients as well, your customers, and your families. Like they understand that you also have a family. And what I've noticed though is that you have to be intentional, because if you say, oh, I'm gonna just respond to this quick email at 9 o'clock at night, well, what does that message send to that client? You will answer them at 9 o'clock at night. And then when you don't, the next time, they then get it like, oh, I'm a little, like she didn't respond to me as fast like the last time. It must not be as important. So just really, that's something I'm working on. That's like my year 4 goal is, And they have great technology to set up, by the way, like you can answer emails, but then the emails you can schedule when they go out. So if you do feel like you need to quickly respond because you'll forget something, just set the scheduler so it doesn't go out till the next morning.
That,
Um, what's that?
I said that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, or does
I
it?
can hear you. I hear you. You're good.
Because I'm still getting used to this microphone, and I keep looking at it because I'm sure that I'm going to hit my head on it. Certain that that happened, but
You're doing good. You're learning new things.
totally like this was from the last time that you and I talked up until now. There's a lot that happened. This was your idea. This was your idea.
Yay! I'm so excited to see this too. Like, I'm so proud of you. I just want to take a moment to say I'm proud of you, Richard,
Oh,
because you are being so, like, just vulnerable and courage and just jumping into something new. And I think that's awesome. And you have such a gift that you're going to give to the dance industry. And what a great way to just connect more with other people and for other people to connect. So,
thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. But this is, on record, this was your idea. And
thanks. I'm
I done it
excited.
a little while, and then how things have just progressed over the past couple of weeks. It was the right time, and when it's the right time, it falls into place. It legitimately just falls into place, and the amount of effort that you put into it is nowhere near what it would be if you were doing it at the wrong time. There would be a lot of effort that you would have to put into it if the timing were wrong. So
100% agree with you with that.
but the that was one reason why I wanted to for sure have you as one of the first guests on the show. But the second reason that I wanted to have you on the show, because the last time that we talked, you really touched on a topic that I feel like needs to be a consideration as all teachers and leaders move forward when it comes to working with children and when it comes to working with young adults. And you were talking about the studio culture and how your new vision for the studio culture as you guys are expanding and growing is a focus on mental health, and that really hit home. And I think that that's one of those topics that we sometimes take for granted, that we're not responsible for in the dance classroom, that you come in, you learn your steps, you do what you're supposed to with your steps, and then you go on. And I think that we're missing some non-teaching teaching moments that we could really take advantage of. So I really wanted you to speak on that direction, and the idea of how you're going to move towards doing your part to make sure that all of your clients and your students are as mentally healthy as they are physically healthy, as they're keeping Studio 360 as a part of their life. So
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. This is a topic that has kind of again just come up as we continue to grow. Like you said, continue to work with students. And if I had a dollar for every time I had said I didn't go to school to be a counselor, I would I don't know, I would have more money in the bank. Basically, I'd have a lot more money in the bank. Um, because and this goes back to when I was a teacher in kindergarten, and I did kindergarten teaching and then coaching. Um, we all go through things. Children go through things. Everyone's coming from such a different background, a different lifestyle, different experiences, and different economical situations, different, just everything. Everyone's coming from a different place in life, and we're coming together and we're learning the art of dance in our instance. And what happens is, there's lots of research out there that talks about how when a student enters, let's say the classroom for like when I'm teaching reading, if they're coming and they had something go on at home that was traumatic, that maybe they haven't ate because they don't have food, maybe their dad or mom, like maybe they left, maybe there's a split in the household. You don't know what's happening. There's a stress in the household. Maybe it's mom lost her job. Okay. It could be, and those are things that our students coming back to us, that is real,
Right.
and here they are. And kids know. You think you hide it. Parents think they're being real good and hiding it, but they know. They're very intuitive, and they know when there's something going on in the household. This pandemic, my 4-year-olds were even talking about the sickness, talking about their masks, and there's just all this anxiety and unknown, and you can't hide it. You don't know what's going on in those households. And when they come to you and they walk in and you're trying to sit down and teach them, in our instance for dance, you're trying to teach them choreography. Well, their mind, if you just want to spit choreography at them, and I call the robot, like they come in, they take the class, you're teaching them point your feet, stretch your arms, do this exercise and do this and shoulders back and, lift and all these things with dance. But if they just walked in from who knows what in their house, their ability to retain what you're teaching them is very little. And really it's not fully getting into their brains and being able to really be 100% learning and be open to that learning. And so I think this whole vision came about and kind of came about also with myself, just working through my own mental health. And because I have a lot of I did have a lot of anxiety, and I still do, but it's manageable now. And just a lot of anxiety that builds up. And so I started working with a life coach. And then I also do therapy. And I advocate for therapy because most people think you go to therapy when there's something wrong. I actually started therapy when there was nothing wrong, other than I just wanted to be a better person and wanted to get better at whatever that was going to be. I remember walking in, I'm like, you had to write all down why you're here. And I was like, I don't know. I just want to like tap into things, and it's kind of taken its own course, and it's helped me be a better person. So I think there's a stigma when it comes to therapy that something has to be wrong. It really, and especially if you're a business owner and if you're a teacher, you cannot, this was my biggest takeaway, like biggest number one takeaway, is you cannot serve other people if you do not serve yourself first. It is like
the healthiest form of selfishness that is necessary. Like we're always taught to not be selfish, and to be polite and to be very giving, and that is true. But you have to be selfish with yourself in maintaining yourself. It makes me think of that quote that says that the best gift that you can give the world is a happy, healthy, whole you. And it's true. It absolutely
100% true. Yes, I love that quote. Yeah, because when you're pouring from an empty cup, you're not giving.
right.
You're not giving anything. You're giving all your your baggage. You're giving that into them, and we're here with children that need us and really need us at our best. And we cannot be at our best again unless you serve yourself first. And how that looks for me was journaling. I pray and have like a devotion each day. I journal gratitude, because there's something, no matter what's going on, there is something to be grateful for. There's something, and that's something we practice now in the studio realm as well with the students. But gratitude and journaling, and that doesn't even have to take, everyone's like, oh, I don't have time for that. 30 minutes. If you're like, how do I fit 30 minutes? Look at your schedule, set your alarm for, if you get up at 7 a.m. every day, set it for 6:30. Yeah, it's going to be kind of hard the first couple weeks, but then it's going to just become a habit. And if you like, something that I think I read in Rachel Hollis's book, like we break promises to ourselves first.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that was a huge light bulb for me. I will run and do this for someone else, or do this for someone else, do this, this is this. But what am I doing for myself? And that morning time, like my husband knows, like we know that this is my journal time. This is my, the daily devotion, and I've put in meditation. I've learned there's a lot of things on meditation, and just being, there's a lot of apps with meditation. I mean, that's a whole other episode, but doing that and getting centered for the day, because no matter what comes at you, you are centered and you are in control of your own self, and that's all we can be in control. I can't be in control of anything else that's happening with anyone else, but I can be in control of my reactions and my emotions. And then I work out. So I go to the gym and do a workout. And some days it's an hour. I have a online trainer, and sometimes it's an hour. Some days if I'm like, I gotta go, like I do, almost everything, but I have to do the priority and go. But every day moving for yourself and doing that morning routine just sets your day up. On days that doesn't always happen, not that they're bad days, but they just, something always kind of feels off.
You can tell. You can tell when your morning routine
Yeah.
isn't supposed to be, and
Yeah.
then you get to the end of the or you get through the day, and it's efforting. Like you feel like you're putting so much more effort into everything, and it could not be more taxing than it was the day before, or the day after. But you're just putting so much effort into making it happen because you missed that little bit of time. So it's like that little itty bitty investment you make for yourself in the morning makes the rest of the day so much better versus skipping it and then struggling the whole day. So
Right. Yeah.
it's that I agree with you, that morning routine, because when that morning routine is off, it really does impact everything else. So
Yeah.
let's go back to that the statement that you made about the promises to ourselves and what kind of impact that really has on us. And I don't think that people understand that that we essentially are lying to ourselves. Like if I said that I was going to do this thing for myself, and then you're like, oh well, it's just me. It's not just you. It starts to add up, because then you make a little sacrifice for something else, and you make a little sacrifice for something else, and all those little sacrifices that we do to ourselves drain us. Like they just take away from that mental energy that you have, and we only have so much for a day. And if you are an entrepreneur, you have not only to give your mental energy to making the business function, you have to give the mental energy to your clients, because kids are sponges. They are sponges, and they will take everything that you give them. And actually, they're going to demand everything that you can give them, because they're just you're just imparting so much knowledge, and you're giving and you're giving and you're giving. And like you said, can you give from an empty cup? No, you're just going through the motions, and you going through the motions will only buy time for so long. You have to stop and refill the cup. So could you speak just a little bit more about that topic of lying to yourself first, or refusing to do the things that you need for yourself first?
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like, again, those promises are intentions. And if you have something that I worked with my life coaches, daily intentions, and every day we wake up and we have intentions to be our best. Okay. So like, for example, my intentions is create. I want to create, and my intentions in my mind are like my promises to myself. Like these are the things that I am, like my purpose of the day, right? No matter what happens. And so I have like I want to create an open mind and heart to be present. Okay. That is hard. Our brains are always thinking ahead, or they're thinking the past. They're never right here. So be present, because we only can be our best selves when we're present. And that's with our students. We walk into that room, and maybe you just had something happen in the lobby. Maybe there was an email, maybe there was a phone call, maybe something happened, whatever it is. But you walk into that, you need to be present with the students to be your best self. And if you're not, then you're going to miss that. You're going to miss something. You're going to miss that, Sally over here, that she just maybe got her skill for the first time and you missed it because you were just going through those motions. So be present. Loving kindness, being kind to yourself, loving you for you, mind, body, spirit, loving kindness for others, spread joy, be the light. Like, we as business owners, we as teachers, we have to be that for our students, but you have to be that for yourself. Again, be that for yourself. Be the light, and then appreciate what is your, I always write, like, I'm grateful for the blessings. We have many blessings, but I'm grateful for challenges, because without the challenges, we wouldn't be able to grow.
True. Absolutely true.
And yeah.
I'm making notes. I'm not like someone. I'm making notes so that when I have you on again, we can follow up with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what those daily intentions, that's your promises to yourself. And by showing up every day and by keeping those promises, you are just giving to yourself, but you're going to be able to give more to other people. You're going to be able to serve your students and your clients. And when you don't do that, you build resentment.
Toward yourself.
Toward yourself. You build resentment, and then the resentment turns into burnout. Mm-hmm. So if there was like advice to give, that would be it. Like, really make those promises to yourself. And it's hard because I don't have children, but I know lots of dance teachers that have dance teachers here that have children, and I get it. It's hard, but even when you have kids, you cannot give to your own children if you are not giving to yourself. And you cannot give to your partner unless you're giving to yourself. So
that is it's great advice to all the way around. But I feel like we hear because we work with kids, and we're working with so many different learning styles and attitudes and ways of communicating that are. We hear the word accountability a lot. We hear a lot about accountability. And I think that as we move forward, post-pandemic, post this political climate that we're in, post the societal unrest that we're going through right now, that the accountability, I think for a long time, it was always, or it seemed that we were on the outside looking at other people and pointing to who should be more accountable, but that accountability to self is, and that's where we need to start. We have to be accountable to ourselves and hold ourselves accountable to what we hold as a standard, because that resonates with your kids. That is one of the reasons I absolutely love lifting weights, because as hard as I push the kids, I want them to not only know that I push myself just as hard, but I walk the walk, I talk the talk. Like I do that on a different level, but I do it for me, but I also do it as an example for them as well.
Yeah, I think I love that point, because there's actually times in rehearsals where I say to them, if we talk about, for example, I just explained to a couple of kids through Zoom one of our last weeks, where I was talking about the importance of stretching and how we need to continue stretching even when we're off, quote unquote, this in June. And I said, it's kind of like this. And I said, I'm getting on I always revert things back to working out. Like, if I go and work out, and I work out one day for an hour, and I'm like, yeah, I worked out really, really hard, I feel good, but then I don't go back to that treadmill until, like, I don't know, 2 more weeks. But hey, that one day 2 weeks ago, I did it really good. I go, do you think I'm going to be just as good as I was when I was running 2 weeks ago? And they're like, no, absolutely not. And and I think it's important to teach that, because in dance, I know in our culture right now, like, we're trying to show that, coming 3 days a week for a short period of time is better than sometimes parents like, I just want to come 1 day a week and be here for as long as I can and get everything in. Well, let's talk about why that doesn't quite work. And explaining that to them, to parents and to students, about why, if I went to the gym to work out and I went 1 day a week, but then, like, am I going to progress in my endurance, and am I going to see the results I want to see by going 1 day a week versus what if I went 3 days a week or 4 days a week? Now, I will preface that our kids come 3 days a week, max, like three, maybe someone comes four, but the average is three. And it's also so that they can gradually build themselves physically, but also like being able to see us more, and that goes back to our whole talk about mental health that we can get into. But being able to see us more frequently and for shorter period of times, that it reduces fatigue, and their own burnout, and also it gradually builds their physical their memory, their ability to my muscle memory, versus like just coming 1 day a week and doing 8 hours of class.
Right. So that's fantastic. You turned me on to Brene Brown, and
There she is.
so I want to I want to close with the this topic. I met you in a teachers at dance teacher forum, and
Yeah.
you had right as you had started the studio, and you were taking a chance at learning more. You stepped outside of your comfort zone, and you kind of set a standard for yourself that first year of continuing to learn and continuing to educate. Can you speak on that topic of how important it is as a wife, a daughter, an entrepreneur, a dance teacher, a leader, of how important it is to keep learning and to get out of your hamster wheel and start doing more, being better? Just talk on that for a second.
Okay. Well, that's also the educator in me, as far as you never stop learning, and we are always growing, and we are lifelong learners. Like, I used to think that was just like a buzzword when I first started teaching in schools, but no, like, we are lifelong learners. And it is our duty as a teacher and as an educator to know. There's so much research out there, there's so many things out there that we don't know. And I've learned more in 4 years than I learned sitting in a classroom, like in going, like, college is great, but like sitting in a classroom in college and just getting lectured at, I've experienced so much more by just being curious, and just that curiosity, and having the fire to say, you know what, like, I want to be better. I want to give more to my students, and to our community, and to the teachers here, to myself. And I guess it's just that curiosity. And we're in the business of kids. And what does that mean? That means that we're inspiring the next generation, and we have such it's amazing time to be us.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
It's an amazing time to be us. Like, things are changing, and there are good things that are going to come out of all the loss and all the things that are happening right now. And but we can help inspire them, because they're going to be our future.
Right.
They're going to do it right, and they're going to change the world in a sense. And everyone says they get into teaching to change the world, and they think it's some big grand thing that you have to do. And it's like, no, you inspire one kid, that kid goes and inspires another. Like, that's the reaction. And so I guess for me, it's just always curiosity, and that that I am not set in what I know is what it is. There's always more to do. And I believe in collaboration 100%. Nobody that I actually do a mastermind, which, if you don't know what a mastermind is, it's a group of people typically entrepreneurs, but doesn't have to be. They come together and you work on different aspects of life. You work on your business, and so it's been wonderful to do that. And a mastermind literally means you put 5 people in the room, let's say, and you have an idea, and or maybe you kind of have an idea, but then out of that everyone has one collective brain. It's this one big brain, and you're able to create ideas, and um, a really great awesome idea. And so in my mastermind, my great idea actually came from mental health and into what I like to call the 360 method. I need a trademark. Yeah. 360 method. And that is just this whole vision of mental health and how to teach. And, you know, we've met people and we know people, Richard, that have said they were great, wonderful dancers, right? They have their resumes and they're like, look what I've done. I've done all of this, right? I've gone around the world. I've done all these things. And then they put you in a classroom and you have to teach. Okay. You have to teach a 7-year-old how to do a tendu, right?
Right.
And I love it because it's like you're like, well, just follow me, just follow me. And like, that's not how it works. You have to be able to break it down. And that's where I love the teaching aspect of it. But that's not taught. And what's awesome is through our studio and something in other studios, I encourage you to do is reach out to those students that maybe are in college. We have quite a few college students right now that they take at the University of Iowa in the dance program, and they're learning and they're crafting their own knowledge, because you do have to have your knowledge. You can't just like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to open a dance studio, I know nothing about dance. No, like, you do have to have your knowledge and you have to have that as your base, but that doesn't stop there. And so reach out to those kids, because they're those, and like I said, I think there's like 4 or 5 of them here now, and we're doing kind of a teaching training program. They come in, they assist, we find odds. There's all kinds of things you can always do, like front desk work, apparel, give them a kind of assistant job, but then they assist in the classroom. And that's kind of how I learned to teach. I assisted my dance teacher for years, in watching, and you get to be with kids and interact. And it's kind of like in teaching, you do student teaching for a whole semester before they let you go have your own classroom. And we don't quite have that in dance. It's like, oh,
you do mentorship that you were doing that I can't applaud you enough, because if you stripped the dance part away from it, the just genuine business sense that you are operating the business on would be the same business sense that anyone should be operating the business on. Now have taken the step from going to a brand new business to a functioning business, now to a growing business. And as you're growing the business portion, you are also growing your infrastructure within the studio as to lead up to groom those new leaders with this mentorship program that you have. And that's so important to every business, because you are crafting the next leader. You're crafting them, and you're giving them that on-hand experience that we spoke about at the very beginning of the interview, that you don't get it any other way than by doing it.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And that is so important. There's other teachers in the industry that are studio owners that say, how do you find, your teachers? And it's not about finding, it's about inspiring and growing them. And how do you get them to buy into your vision? Well, they're part of, I think about, we had a staff meeting last week, and I talk about, how this isn't just like, this isn't called Natasha School of Dance, right? It's bigger than one person. And as a studio owner, you have to put your ego aside. There's no room for egos, especially as your teachers too. There's no room for egos. And when everyone puts that aside and comes with an open mind and let's build this together. And I've had ideas where then coming by teachers, they feel safe enough to say, oh, I don't understand how that's going to work. Can you explain more? Or what if we did this instead? And then what happens is, I feel like there's just a momentum of other people that are in the industry are like, hey, I want to teach here because I feel open to be able to try something new. And and when you're a business owner, studio owner, your vision is, yes, that's driving the business, but your teachers, they have great ideas too, and they have to feel heard and appreciated. And again, you can create your own little mastermind in a sense.
Right.
And so I that's my thing, is just always be curious and lifelong learning. And again, Brene Brown, I'm reading her Dare to Lead, and I wish I would have had this about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. But yeah, she has amazing books. She has a Netflix series. I think it's still out. It's just a one show. It's not a series. It's just one show, Daring Greatly. And that's where I found her, and then found out she had all these amazing books. And this Dare to Lead right now is just being how to lead wholeheartedly, and has some great tips on just how to lead from the heart.
And for anyone that does not know who Brene Brown is, she is a researcher. She is not a therapist. She made that very clear in her interview with Tim Ferriss. She is not a therapist, but she is a researcher. So she accumulates data, and data is her thing. Like she's just she looks at the numbers, she looks at the reports. So she's a numbers person. She's not a therapist. So I appreciate that part of her insight on such a high scientific level, but it's so practical. Like she's just so practical. And I can't encourage teachers and dancers enough to go to do that for yourself, to give back into yourself just as much as you give out to everyone else, because I think that there's this self-suffering that we feel like we have to give due diligence to everyone else, and we have to not give to ourselves because that's the thing to do. And that is I think that's a very dated way of thinking about leading a group of people in any sense, that you have to suffer and do without, and that's just not, it's not healthy in any way. It's not healthy for anyone.
Right. And I would just say, like, this whole topic of mental health, and, it starts with the leader. And that's why we're talking about this today, because we could sit here and say, here's a cute activity or a fun activity to do with kids. And, but until you have to start with yourself, and then it just becomes natural on how to implement that into your studio. But when you start with yourself and with the leaders, and just developing it on your own, this whole method I'm coming up with is, we talked, our first one was feedback. Like, how do we give feedback? What's a wholehearted way to give feedback to students? What's not a wholehearted? I had like a picture of a broken heart. Like, what's a broken-hearted way of giving feedback? And it just starts with this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just start with yourself. And then it will carry over to how you teach, how you're interacting with clients, how you're interacting with students, and just having that open mindset of allowing and being open about it. It doesn't have to be this like secret thing that I let everyone know that, oh yeah, I'm in therapy, and then usually students are like, oh my gosh, my mom wants, they talk about it, and it becomes a norm. And in a sense of, you don't have to hide situations, or, we have students that are going through a lot. We have students that are going through divorce. We have a student going through, mom just got diagnosed with cancer, and they're coming with and people, you got to remember that children are coming through with heavy things too, and they're just kids. And that if we can be healthy for ourselves, well, we can help them in a good way. We can help them. And something else I wanted to say too is, with my life coach, it was weird, strange universe, how it all connected, because I actually started following him because he works with some dance teams.
Okay.
And his name's James Silvis, and he has a podcast called Be That 1%. And he and how I ran across him, he works with dance teams, and he does several things, and he's like a mindset coach, and then he also does life coaching. And but I actually had him I was working with him for about a year, and then decided to bring him into the studio to work with the students. and and that is encouraging, like using outside resources, people that may not even be tied to dance, but could still help your students and help you. And he came in, and we had the most powerful 2-day workshop, and we didn't do any dancing. It was it was a 1-day workshop. I was like, wait, it was a 1-day workshop. But it was we didn't dance, but the growth that happened and the growth that we saw in dance classes later on was huge, because of the growth that happened mentally during that time. So just I know colleges have a lot of sports psychologists that are right there. So your local college, like I know the University of Iowa, they work with they have sports psychologists that will come in and work with your students. But just using those resources around your community, and it doesn't always have to be dance, but I believe that the mind is just as important. Visualization, the mind is just as important as if you were teaching them how to do a pirouette turn.
Thank you. That is awesome. So, for any of your students, or any of your parents, or anyone that would be listening to the podcast, either now or in the future, what do you want them to take away from their experience with you and the way that you run your business at 360? What would you want that take home message to be, whether they were with you for a year or whether they're with you for 15 years? What would you want your ideal client to walk away from the experience knowing and feeling?
Yes. I would say for them, it would be to walk away having a positive experience that challenged them in a positive way and helps them grow, that they walk away with more than just, again, knowing just to dance. Like, we do so much more than dancing, and dancing is it. Yes, it's the thing we love. It's the thing that brought us all together, and it's the thing we love to do. But are they walking away with maybe that confidence? They danced on a stage in front of people. Maybe I have some little preschoolers that walking into the classroom was the hardest thing for them to do. Yeah. And maybe they walked away with being able to have social skills, to be able to talk to other students. Maybe it was doing something new and challenging and fun. And hey, they got to do that. Just the positive experience, teamwork. When you think of being able to work as a team, they walked away with that. There is discipline in there, self-discipline, being able to, we do have a dress code here. Why do we have a dress code? Well, because if I'm ready to go with my attire and my hair, then I got to get my mind ready to go, and then I can actually do the thing we're here for. And also you talk about accountability, coming to class every week, participating, all these skills, coordination, like there's all these things that happen. And I just want them to walk away knowing that we hopefully inspired them to be a better human, and to have the love of arts. Because guess what? If they don't become, if they dance for a year, but they're like, oh, that was such a fun experience, and then they grow up and then they have kids, and then they want their child to be in dance, or it's, I had a great time. I was at Studio 360 for, let's say, 2 years, and I just really loved to do softball, and I became involved in that. Okay, but guess what? They're going to sit at that softball game, and then there's a kid doing cartwheels, and they're like, oh, does she dance? No. Oh, like, it's just the word of mouth, and the more you can have a positive experience. And I would want everyone to leave knowing that, like, they have a place in the community that loves them, supports them. And no matter if they come 1 day a week or they're here 3 days a week, whether they do competition or they don't, like, they're valued and they matter, and we love them. So there you go.
Listeners, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and feel free to share this podcast with any of your colleagues or all the supporters and advocates for dance. To find out more about Natasha and Studio 360, click the link in the description below. Until next time, this has been Real Talk with Mr. Richard, brought to you by 360 Dance Festival.